Yeah, that one had some extra juice behind it, I feel. But yeah, straight off the get-go, we have Vanya opting for a 12 ball. And I think that's kind of a ballsy move against somebody like Elazer, because Elazer, and you'll remember this, he was one of the guys that was opting for making one of these Evo chamber kind of wall-offs to try and stop the drones from being able to plant spine crawlers and stuff where they really want it. But I don't think it's going to be the super-duper cheesy drone pull one, given that he's already got enough minerals and stuff. But we'll see what he chooses to go for. Oh, it is.
Does that really? I was gonna say, does that really happen often enough that like so many people plan around it on this map? I find that fascinating. Also, I don't think I've actually seen this happen before. Like this, 3 drones is what?
No, he's definitely going to do it now. Like, yeah, we do see all the drones being pulled. And Vanya, like I tell you, this guy is crazy. And they are both timing-oriented players. But if we look where Elazer's actually put his first spawning pool, which is kind of in this position where you can potentially start thinking about blocking. But his overlords, look at the path that Vanya took around the map. He hasn't spotted this at all. So now he sees some Zerglings. He's like, oh, what is this about? Is that a normal time Zergling? Absolutely not. And Vanya is getting down 3 spine crawlers already.
Yeah, 3. Okay, so he's going to have to pull drones to help defend against this already. I mean, the spine crawlers do take a long amount of time to build, but I guess that's where the support of the lings with these drones come in. Like, what exactly do you do in this situation while the spines are building? He doesn't actually have any units of his own to try and defend against this with. The drones are just kind of stacking inside the mineral patch, trying to tuck inside while he waits for his own Zerglings to finish. But it's going to be a concentrated mass over here. And those 2 spine crawlers getting very close to finishing to Muslim. If these pop up, I'm not entirely sure there's much of a defense left here, right?
No, I don't think there is. Like, he obviously wants to take the low ground. Nice around by Elazer, but he's losing a lot of drones. Does kind of separate the army, but spawning pool is under fire. And one of the nasty things about this map, which is why this strategy is popular, you can actually get those spines in a position where you can hit the minerals from the high ground, but he's moving down to the low ground.
What an absolutely dirty strategy. These Zerglings and drones pushing down from the ramp with the reinforcing lings. The last vestige of the economy from Vanya being rallied across the map as that spine crawler does root by the mineral line, and Elazer just has to defend with these drones and this queen. A couple more lings are going to pop out, but it's like there's no follow-up for Vanya here, right? So if Elazer is able to stabilize at all, he should be okay. Or is there like a point where he would send his drones home doing this?
I have never seen a Zerg pull their drones home and then like kind of come out of this okay-ish. I mean, going for the spawning pool, like this will eventually fall. If he doesn't target it though, then oh, he's killing his own spawning pool to get the broodlings out. That was a cool move by Elazer. And will it actually be enough? They are kind of hurting this spine crawler, but spine crawlers do have a lot of armor. Queen on the high ground falls as well. This is a real dire situation for the pole. He is down to 7 supply, and Vanya takes the first game of the series.
Well, an explosive start to this best of 3 to Muslim as we get that fast pull with the drone all in, down to double his workers attacking in his own base. That's just okay. Well, like I said, I haven't actually been able to see. I've heard so many legends about these builds being used on this map. That's my first time I get to see it in action. And yeah, if the one thing that stood out to me about Vanya's play from last week was real, it was just that he's very decisive, very committed with his attacks and pushes, and I feel like that gives him an edge. But man, he really rocked Elazer's clock that game.
Yeah, and I don't want to say this is what happens, because I'm not going to pretend I know everything about these 2 players, but when you do have 2 players that are all about attacking, if one of them potentially comes first or, you know, catches the other one off guard, it can really sweep the rug from under them. And there was just a few little things that Vanya did that game. So he didn't go directly to the Zerg base. Like, he totally avoided the usual Overlord path, which I think was really smart, because, you know, Elazer's been known to kind of put up this wall and be very good against the spine crawler rushes, which he might be thinking, nobody will ever spine crawler rush me, given that I'm so good against it. But Vanya's like, mate, I'm just going to avoid the Overlord so you don't react like you usually do. And wow, he just absolutely got caught. And I am impressed by Vanya just taking that one like he did.
It's so gutsy, right? You feel like you're putting everything on the line in tournaments like this. You're risking your good position and possibly allowing Elazer to claw his way back up into that top 4 if your push fails. But at the same time, that decisiveness is exactly why he's able to capitalize on opportunities like the one that he just did to get the 1-0 lead. And we are loaded in to game number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, in the bottom right position, we have the red Zerg player trailing 0-1 now. He is Elazer.
And spawning over in the top left, as the blue Zerg, it is Vanya.
Build like that would give me massive anxiety playing ZVZ, though. Like, if that's a thing that people regularly do now, good God.
How do you feel about Proxy 2-Rax Reaper, though, in TVT?
Oh, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I like being greedy. If I can go for fast tech and only build like 2 units, I will. But that build, you know, gives me anxiety.
No, I mean, no, you're right. But there's always ways that it's like, okay, if I go for the Reaper fast expand and I scout it this time, like I'll be able to get the bunker up in time. And obviously, it's still kind of like one of those crazy situations. Yes.
Yeah.
But you get more and more used to it, where it's like I feel StarCraft 2 players in general are like masochists, because this game, you are gonna spend your whole day practicing, and if it's a good day of practice, you lose like 50% of your games, right? And you just get very, very used to it. Elazer, or rather, if we go by this game though, it's already very, very different. So Vanya started off last game with a 12-pool drone pool, which did beat Elazer, but this game they're both opting for exactly the same stuff. And Elazer, again, going for that spawning pool position where it's kind of at the top of the ramp. Just if the opponent does go for the spine crawlers, he can potentially build this wall up from the spawning pool, and trying to get the spine crawlers behind it is a bit more tricky, and that's why he goes for that.
Yeah, I remember hearing there was some discussion, and I think it was Katz was telling me about how you can put a hatchery next to that, and you can actually full block it if you need to, but it's like one of those crazy, like, desperate ploy type things, like if you feel that is what you need to do. But that's just wild. And I do like your point though, talking about sometimes playing StarCraft can be a bit like masochism, and you have to kind of just accept that a lot of those types of builds you're just going to die to, because at the end of the day, almost everybody's going to get forced towards that 50% win rate. Eventually, you'll play somebody who's good enough at doing that build that you're not going to be able to stop it, no matter how good you think your reaction time might be.
As far as the most infuriating thing that's happened to me recently, though, it's the fact that DTs have come back into fashion.
Oh my God, yeah.
That little blur as soon as you see it, after you've clicked down your mule, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to get a little bit of extra minerals. And it's like, oh my gosh, I just instantly lost the game. By the way,
went a solid year. You went like a solid year with DTs not being a thing in PvT.
And now they freaking finally listened to Fear Dragon after 3 years, and they're like, okay, let's get Blink on these bad boys as well. And it's a nightmare. Yeah. Both these guys super mirroring each other, by the way. Like, speed are within seconds of each other. The scouting's exactly the same. Baneling Nest, like, ZVZ can be linear in one way, that there is a best way to open, at least, like, with getting all the information, like, just to make sure that you're safe, where to put your Baneling Nest and all that jazz. But right now, yeah, even the amount of lings that these guys are making against one another, it's beautiful to see that they're both equally high level when it comes down to textbook ZVZ.
Yeah, it seems like they both have an idea of what they want to have at certain phases of the game, and that idea is kind of generally lining up, since they're both, as you just stated, very high level players, have a good grip on what to do in the matchup. But looking for any sort of branching out in terms of the tech that either of them are going for, there really is nothing just yet. The lair is starting up a little bit soon. Actually, nope, same time for both players. So Scouting Ling is going to run through the natural here for Elazer, just trying to see if there's anything that could be trying to catch him off guard. But, I mean, if both players had full vision, all they would see is that they're doing the same thing. Now, maybe. No, +1 armor. Roach, roaring. I'm like, show me a little something different. Someone get +1 attack. Let's see it. Show me something weird.
Yeah, so far it's okay. +1 attack from Elazer, so he's opting for like the more standard. But I think Vanya, given that he's getting the carapace, he might be trying to go for something a little bit cheeky, like the Roach Ravager Ling kind of flood all in. Just because the armor, then it helps a little bit with the Lings as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, his Roaches will be unkillable by the Zerglings, right? And then at the same time, his Lings won't die as easily to the Banelings. And even this first bit of pressure could be trying to set up for that possible future play by eating into his production so that he can't actually build as many units that he's going to need later on to defend the follow-up. Some of the Lings do get the Queen of the Natural, a couple of them going into the main, splitting between those bases, really starting to stretch Elazer around, but splits off his units and has thus far not sustained any economic damage yet.
So the biggest tell right now, and I don't know if Elazer spotted this, but Vanya has not tech to lair at all. And this is obviously a lot of Lings which are killing all the queens died. So no more lava injects are online for Elazer. And Vanya has a lot of supply to use right now. Granted, his supply is still lower than Elazer, despite going for an all-in. I don't know. I think these Lings were kind of meant to do a little bit more than they did.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to consider. And I really like that you point out he did cancel the lair, because I think he was hoping that he would get maybe scouted that he was building it at the same time as the Elazer, but then pulling back from it. But everything's going to rest on the shoulders of these +1 Carapace Roaches and then the Ling flood behind them, as he's only got 34 drones to 50. So if this attack doesn't kill him, he has no economy to fall back on. And these Lings actually find the third. They're like, oh, there's nothing here. Just a queen. And it's basically a macro hatch at this point to help produce larva for this attack that's coming to Muslim. Ravagers morphing towards the front as well. Roach speed could make things a little bit easier for Elazer to get the jump on those Ravagers. But like we said, it's going to come down to how much those Zerglings can help flood behind.
It definitely is. I do feel Elazer's got himself into a pretty decent spot here, though. I mean, getting supply blocked from these vials is annoying for sure, but he does have a decent number of roaches. Roach speed will kick in very shortly. Vanya doing a nice job with these bios, constantly supply blocking Elazer. Oh my gosh, the wraparound. The bios on the roaches as well. Elazer does a good job of mobilizing, but this is so much Vanya right now.
And he has to pull some of the drones to help defend against this. Now, the Roaches do have that speed upgrade. And if the Ravagers lose the meat shield of Roach Ling, we can see Elazer is able to definitely step forward and pick off a good number of the Ravagers. Only 2 remain with this army. They are the big firepower of this force. The Roaches and Lings can do a lot of work, but he needs to have the cost-effective units since he has given up so much of his economy, still behind a bit in the drone count. He does start up his lair and a round of drones behind this. But I do think there's some consideration that needs to be made for a possible counterplay. It's very difficult to step out on the map with Roaches that don't have Glial Reconstitution versus your opponent that does have that Roach speed upgrade, because you just can't retreat in the open field.
No, Elazer's definitely in the driver's seat now. He's got, they've got equal bases and fairly equal economies, but that is so significant, having your lair up and running. He's also going for +2 attack. He's got a 20 supply advantage here. Vanya, he reacted kind of nicely, though. He was putting up spine crawlers, realizes Elazer's just moving back and most likely droning. So he cancels his spines and drones himself. And Elazer, he was a little bit like, okay, I'm going to keep on producing roaches for a long time and kind of pretend I'm going to attack, but then go for the drones. So there's mind games going on here. Like, Elazer's trying to sell some kind of story, but now going back to the roaches. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, he also just had the contamination just end on the third base hatchery, and that ability just gives you that 30 seconds of that hatchery doesn't produce larva, or if it's being injected, it puts it on hold. So you're kind of delaying the production as well, which also is not going to help Vanya with getting himself back into that happy, comfortable position. And as you were talking about, that defense becomes a big question because the Roaches are coming. He's trying to go for a fire and +1 melee. The Zerglings do not find any purchase on the other side of the map, and he's just trying to hold on to a very tight choke point here. But there are a lot of Roaches for Elazer trying to bash down the front door of Vanya's base.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a side of the choke you really want to be on as Vanya, you know, because now these Roaches are just going to barrel down, kill the Evo, probably kill the Baneling Nest. They're killing drones as well, and Elazer's just getting himself into a really nice position here, just constantly producing roaches. And Vanya, he's just trying to get out as many units as he can, but Elazer's just got a better economy and a better army right now.
Yeah, and you also just have that torrential flood of roaches streaming across the map, trying to clear this up. Now, if Vanya is able to hold, there is always that, you know, people talk about, like, you have that weird, if you can get enough mutas to push back some of the roaches and start to harass, you can kind of get the other Zerg player to get defensive, right? Because it's difficult to move out. You don't really have the anti-air that can go out on the map with this level of tech, but it's, I mean, usually you just see the guy trying to get the mutas die to a roach flood at this stage of the game if they're not able to get damage done with their earlier strikes, but it's quite difficult. Look, he's pulling drones to Muslim. Definitely not a situation you want to have to be in. Lings are getting a little bit of a counterattack, but he's going to lose so much of his economy to try and hold this push.
I do like the counterattack by Vanya. I mean, he is trying to hold on and deal damage as well as holding, but too much damage being done, and Elazer ties up the series. So, you know, as far as our predictions go, we could both be right, which is, or rather, one of us is going to be right at this point, which is kind of cool, you know, but Vanya, or rather, Elazer, after seeing he's still producing so many Lings, despite, like, okay, if you have one larvae available, a roach is going to do better against this rush, right? I mean, yeah, Lings come out faster, but where's he using all that gas? And I think that's why Elazer was just kind of like, I'm going to keep on putting on pressure and keep on attacking him.
Yeah, and that's just, you know, like you said, I like that as 1-1. I like that we're getting close here because I feel like, yeah, we got a really good matchup. I do believe we're going to be Are we going to a quick break? Okay, we're going to go to a quick break before we get into game number 3, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back with the DreamHack StarCraft Masters.
Hey guys, welcome back, and we're right in the middle of Vanya versus Elazer. Currently, the score is 1-1, so this is really tight between these guys, Nathanias, because Vanya, he's 3-1 in the group so far. He's been doing really darn well, and Elazer, if he loses this one, he goes down to 2-3 and potentially doesn't make it through the group.
Yeah, this match for him is, you know, regardless of whether or not like he could win any of his other series, this is the one that's like, if you can't make this happen, if you can't make it happen right here where it counts the most, it's going to be really hard to see a way of him actually making it out here, right? Like you gotta get some momentum going. You gotta rally back, put your hat on backwards, you know, whatever your ritual is for getting out of a funk. He's got to pull it. He's got to pull all the stops out here. Get those warm scented candles going while you're playing your EPT match, because this is it. We're loaded in to Ice and Chrome. In the Northeast, we have the Red Zerg player. He is Elazer.
And spawning over in the bottom left, as our blue Zerg, it is Vanya.
Now, I don't know about you, Benjamin, but I read this map name as ice cream pretty much all the time. I don't know why.
You're American,
I don't know if there's some psychology behind. Oh, is that it? That's fair.
I don't know. I don't know. But actually, given that we haven't spoke since the new maps came out, how do you feel about the new 4 of them?
As far as the new maps go, I don't like Submarine, but you know me, I like to play long games, so that naturally doesn't gel very well with my own styles. But I like a lot of these maps. I think at least especially for like Terran, they're all very good. You have a lot of airspace compared to like 2 seasons ago.
I'm quite fond of a few of them. Like whenever they make slow zones or now speed zones, I'm always kind of like, oh, here we go again. But Death Aura, I like it a lot. The speed zones haven't really kind of affected me negatively at all. And I've just been like kind of laughing when I see speed medevacs go through or whatever. But also I like the look of the maps a lot. And this map in particular, Ice and Chrome, I think this is a really, really cool one and very macro orientated, obviously.
Yeah, I think this map is fantastic, and I agree with you, Deathora. Like I always liked when people do these things with the new maps, where we get these new tools. Like you don't put all of it in, right? You don't just dump the whole packet of cinnamon on your toast, right? You got to put a sprinkle of it, otherwise it's too much. And I feel these maps have done that really well. Vanya's early lings are going to make their way to the natural of Elazer. He does have the emergency spine crawler going in case he needs it. Drones are going to pull back over towards the main base. Any drone damage early on from a build like this would be absolutely fantastic. He's getting a Bane Nest behind it. But the Muslim, it looks like we've got a pretty committed all-in possibly coming here out of Vanya to... And like I said, this is, for me, when I see Vanya play, this is what actually excites me, is that he's so decisive. He'll just do stuff like this in this situation with everything on the line.
He is super all-in right now, Nate. Like, this is one queen. So that is only one set of lava injects going on, but he's only on 14 drones. So that's all he can afford. And if we look at his minerals, this is very, very timed out that you can't afford that second queen at all. So I love the fact that he's going for this. Elazer, on the other hand, is going for a lair, despite getting all in, but he's going for this wall off. So he has read the situation beautifully.
Okay, so, all right, enlighten me. What is his follow-up to this? Is he going to try and just squeeze roaches out and get speed, or counterattack with like a Nidus or Mutas? That's a crazy late game strategy, or I guess he canceled it already. He's kind of realizing that this is maybe more all in than he originally anticipated.
Yeah, I like right now the situation is just survive. Like as long as you hold this off, these Banelings don't really. I mean, they kill one of the Evo chambers, but the other one's going up, and he's making his own slow links right now because he doesn't have his own speed. More Banelings coming through, but nice focus fire by Elazer onto these Banelings, and. Is he going to be able to hold nice transfuses as well? Elazer's playing very well against this.
I was going to say, like, he had quite a couple of transfuses that came in just in time for that wall to be broken. Some of the Lings are going to try and slip back over towards the main base, see if they can get some damage done. As there's not really too much here to help defend against this. We don't have the Ling speed for Elazer, so he's kind of chasing these Lings around his own base. Not an easy thing to do. The Roach Horn is going to finally finish soon, but man, getting anything up after this. He's still pretty all in though, right? He's still not building drones. He's at 14, just flooding Lings across the map. And I guess maybe considering making more Banelings to try and crash through the gates if he needs to again.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, Vanya just has one thing in mind, and that is killing Elazer. Elazer keeps continually rebuilding the Evo wall, which is a really, really big deal. Vanya's going to try and sneak some Banelings in the main base by the looks of it, but the queen count's getting higher. Ooh. Now these Banelings are pretty much...
Oh boy.
There is big chance here. If Elazer did not realize what's happening here, then he's in big trouble.
And that drone count to Muslim, it's getting really, really close to the point where, you know, he's not necessarily has to be as all in. And oh goodness, 9 drones dying in the last minute of this game. Absolutely painful. Those Banelings paying off in spades. And Vanya is now going to start to build workers again. But is he poised to deal with, or do you think Elazer is actually going to try to move out with these roaches or try to build enough to attack? I guess maybe he doesn't have the money to.
I think, okay, so this is obviously a really weird situation. We could just look at the supplies and be like, okay, Elazer's ahead.
I'm just very confused.
But yeah, so Elazer's completely walled himself off, so he's not in danger. And right now, I don't know what he goes for, honestly, Nate. Like, does he go for his own lair? Does he just drone up?
He's got a wall of 4 evolution chambers and a Roach Warren right now.
And he's got a lot of angry Zerglings outside. Like, I mean, it's still a scary position.
Yeah, he's still a little bit stuck in a roundabout sort of way. And the lair option for Vanya, like, is he just gonna try to go for Mutalisks again from a better position, I suppose, relatively speaking, I guess. What an odd game.
Yeah, I think Muta might be the call for Vanya here. He doesn't have a Roach War on the way and trying to catch up with your opponent, because he also doesn't know what's going on behind this wall. And yes, he does go for a Spire. So Elazer, when he wasn't making the lair, given that the lair's kind of late, I was like, okay, is he just going to go for a massive rush here? I am a little bit surprised that Vanya made the gases here without Overlord still able to see them, because that, to me, kind of signals, okay, my opponent's probably going something very gas-intensive like Muta.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, considering that he opened with the Ling speed and the Baneling Nest, right? Like, he already knows there's a gas in the main base, so 3 gases at this phase. There's really only so many things that you can do, and that Spire is halfway done. And normally we talk about how, like, when you try to go for that Spire, like, it's the big attack that hits right before you get a decent number of Mutalisks where those roaches just overwhelm you. And that's what we saw last game. But given the way that this game started, like everything's kind of been slowed down, possibly to the point where he's not going to have that opportunity because Roach speed isn't going to be done until well after this fire's finished.
No, and Elazer's opting for his own gases now. He did have a big surplus of gas because he was mining gas the whole time that rush was going on, so he didn't really need them, but he did utilize one of his 3 Evos to get armor as well as the ranged attack, but the game has been very much slowed down, as you put it, and who is going to go for a third first? Is a third going to happen at all for either one of these players? Elazer, like, the ball's in his court, really. Like, he's going to get muted at some point. What's he going to do against it?
Yeah, I feel like if you can slip units out around where the mutas are, then it, can really give opportunity. Okay, Nidus Network, that is definitely one option for trying to deal with these mutas. In fact, DeMuslim, he did open with this fast +1 Carapace, so the Mutalisks, including with their bounce, may not be quite as good at helping to clean up these roaches and queens as they would otherwise be, since it's he is going to start flyer attacks, but that is not going to be done for a very long time.
No, and it's going to be 1/1 queens pretty much. And I know their anti-air has been nerfed a tiny bit, but still they can deal with mutas at least if they're fairly equal numbers. And there's going to be like max maybe 10 mutas out in the field, and the Nidus is going up at the third. But Vanya very quick to spot this, and this is a huge deal actually, because now he knows what Elazer's weapon of choice is.
So I guess the true strength of the Mutalisks in this situation is that he can keep his Overlords out on the field and to try and help keep the map vision to deal with Nidus worms and catch them and clean them up. But as the next one does get plopped down a bit west of that Xel'Naga tower, that one will finish, but they've got quite a journey to go to even get to the third base. And the Mutalisks are in the main of Elazer, so he's going to be having to make a huge play from a very long distance. But the Queens, well, I mean, they're forced to stay at home to defend against the Mutas as long as they're here. So I'm not even sure where the opportunity to really capitalize on those comes from either.
I guess one of the things here is Elazer's trying to play aggressive to be defensive, right? Like, if he has his queens being aggressive, then the Mutas have to come back and defend, which is kind of what's happening here. I mean, tried to get another Nidus up, but Vanya very quick to stop that. Does get one Muta popped out of the sky, but Elazer, he's not going to stop soon.
Those Mutas die fast, and this is like, it's very much so a snowball Mutalisk strategy where keeping them alive is really the key to success, being able to chip away, use that health regeneration from the Mutalisks to continue to push forward. But it's not like we're on a 3-base economy where he's pumping out like, 6 or 7 Mutalisks at a time. He's really got to be careful and making sure he does not lose those to the Queens. But the Lings get us around on some of the reinforcing roaches before they can make their way into the Nidus at the natural of Elazer. Of course, you see those upgraded roaches do a really good job at stalling. That 1/1 paying off in spades, 2-shotting the Lings, and then also that 1 armor. Well, it has a big impact on Zergling attacks.
It certainly does. We're 10 minutes into this EVZ, and the drone count is 30 versus 31.
Oh my God.
This is very low economy, but soon it's going to be 2-1 upgrades for Elazer, and that queen count is just constantly growing here, Nathanius. And
yeah, it's the march
I'm really,
of the Penguins,
really worried
man.
for Vanya.
No, I'm just gonna stop this. There's a boulder rolling down a hill, and I don't know if Vanya's got quite the arms to punch that boulder out of the way. It's going to be very difficult to stop this attack. So many roaches and queens. There are a large number of spine crawlers at this natural expansion, though, to try and hold on here. It's going to build the Nidus in his face.
That Nidus might be kind of blocking off his own roaches a little bit, but I like the authority of it. These spine crawlers, you can definitely say that Vanya was a little bit prepared for this attack coming. Even a spore crawler, an aggressive spore crawler being placed, and Elazer heads back home with the queens to deal with the mute block because they are in his mineral line, but this is a large number of queens and they are shooting down all the mutas, but mutas are fighting back pretty nicely here. It's very close between these guys, but the supply, that is telling a different story. The roaches cleaning up Vanya's base, and Vanya down to 20 supply here against Elazer. Elazer handled this beautifully.
Yeah, very well done by Elazer.